it's too far forward and I have to shift it back. It's just, personally, I don't want to see that on like the shadow side at all.
Be sure to say, use promo totally not sponsored to get 0% off of your checkout purchase price. What's up, guys? We're back with Turner Jumonville. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
You are pronouncing it just fine.
Okay,
Turner
great.
Jumonville.
Okay,
fine.
great. I just want to make sure that I said it. Okay.
Sometimes it's...
Emmy Award winner, professional cinematographer, and great guy.
Thanks, Nate.
Dude.
Thank you. Thanks for the intro. And
dude, of course.
You guys know that we have Nate here.
I'm here.
A pretty solid guy in and of himself. So,
I'm okay.
The
jury's still out.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, of course.
And,
thanks for letting me come and crash your place and ask you a bunch of questions about shit again.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Happy to be here, so let's get into it.
Okay, last time we were together, we chose an image from The Batman, which is directed by Matt Reeves and is shot by Greg Fraser, who just won an Academy Award for Dune last year. Mm-hmm. He's pretty proficient and competent at his craft.
Yeah, certainly.
And so I tried to use that as inspiration to create a shot. Last night in my backyard, I sent it to Turner. Do you want to talk at all about the cinematography of The Batman before we get into it?
Certainly, yeah, we can kind of touch on that. I don't even know if I want this for the record. I'm not really a comic book like movie guy.
I think that's totally fine to put in the record.
In any event, I like this Batman. I like this. I like the Christopher Nolan ones. Those are pretty, Christopher Nolan, he kind of puts together a pretty, decent trilogy.
Yeah.
I like the Joker. I mean, I guess I'm not so much. You're going to have to edit this one. I guess maybe it's not fair to say. I enjoyed the most recent versions of the Joker. I liked, that's solid. And I like this Batman. I like the darkness of it. I like the grittiness of it. I mean,
right.
I like the way that it, it's a nice dark film. It feels a little bit more raw than some of the other ones. It feels less comic booky to me than some of the other films.
Right.
It's like less sort of like reliance. At least this one, it feels like, and I'm talking more like characteristic stuff, like character parts, but like less reliance on sort of the toys and the gadgets and this is a darker film. Certainly, I would say like the personality of it's way darker. But that being said, it looks fantastic. It's beautiful.
One thing I wanted to point out in addition to that is that there is large portions of this film that are shot on the volume, which is them anytime that they're standing at the edge of a building.
Big,
it's
a big vista. Yeah, it's pretty awesome the way that they, utilize that. And I mean, amongst other things, the special, Ari kind of tweaks some lenses for him and tunes some stuff up. And, yeah, I like it. There's some great use of like out of focus elements, that were pretty well done when it comes to I feel like it's like a camera's on the ground. It's like kind of a Dutch angle, looking up sort of. It's like somebody's approaching the camera, and it's like you don't see it, but like you feel it. And I feel like there's a handful of those, utilized really well, without a rack, not including a rack, which I really thought was great. I mean, it's cool. I like this movie. This is a good film.
Yeah, there's also he used, if I'm not mistaken, for the car chase scene that Greg Fraser used the Helios 58, which was rehoused by Iron Glass, which is like a pretty well-known and sort of cinemod company from the Ukraine that rehouses old Soviet lenses.
I have one in the house.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, they're pretty well known and definitely came up to be like sort of a sought after lens for like sort of prosumer or video at home users, and so it was like kind of
funky.
Cool
None of them are the same. It's like made by the Soviet Union probably. I think the one I have is like it's meters. It's old. And they're all different.
Yeah.
So there's like no quality control, so to speak. It's all a little different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes them kind of special. And not for everything, right? You wouldn't want to use it for everything, but it's cool for this stuff. Like it's so abstract anyway. At night, there's so much darkness and shadow, and it's just like I think some of these elements lend, to help sort of the storytelling.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting because it sort of like it feels like it takes Batman from being this sort of bombastic, bigger, larger than life, caped vigilante to basically becoming a noir detective is what it sort of is the vibe of the film almost.
Yeah, it's a totally different vibe than the other ones. I mean, it's nice because honestly, there's been so many of them. I know they're all different, right? But just the sheer fact that there are so many of them so on top of each other is like, like personally I find that to be a little tough sometimes, but I think they executed this stuff pretty well. So
this is the image that I was able to create last night. This is the image that Greg Fraser created with a much better subject, Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
Her cheeks are very defined.
Yeah, she has a great face.
Yeah.
And she's such a pretty woman. Her her cheekbones, like, her neck, like, just collarbone, all of it, like, nice shapes, right?
Yes.
Like nice shapes. She captures light well.
Can I tell you what I had the most difficulty with?
Let's see. I wonder what.
Okay, I shot this 4 times.
Like,
I reshot it 4 times.
Yesterday.
Okay. I left.
Are you just taking stills? Are you shooting video? What are
I'm
you doing?
shooting video,
okay,
and then I
doing a couple like lookups.
Yeah, I'm basically just doing this and sort of moving until I can find a spot that looks like sort of close, right?
Yeah.
And so I left the setup, and I didn't move anything. I took it into post. I brought it in. I was like, oh, not quite right, not quite right. So the lens that I ended up using on this was, I have the Sony 28 to 135.
No, that's my coffee. Leave it.
135 servo zoom.
What was it again?
The 28 to 135 servo
is it,
zoom.
like
It's
a
the
4?
Sony. It's an f4, yeah. It's the power zoom, right? So you can just use the handle.
So you're limited with your f-stop, right?
Yeah, limited with the f-stop, but the thing was that I was like, my biggest issue with the job that I did last time was the focal length.
Yeah,
It wasn't
fair enough.
representative of it, because I was like, I didn't have a prime that I felt like was long enough.
Okay, right. So you went to a zoom this time, so you could have the focal length, but it's still like a little bit faster. So you're like, it's a little different.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough, right.
So
I mean, you can just tell by like, look at her shoulders.
Yeah, her neck's
totally
out of focus.
Yours are sharp. So.
Yeah, exactly. My ears are the sharpest thing in the.
But I feel like the focal length feels about right. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just a function.
I was almost to the end too, so maybe a 125, right?
Yeah, I mean, if this was like an anamorphic.
I think
film,
they did anamorphic.
Could have been like 150 or.
Yeah, and I think they shot this on the. We'll have to look. I'll look, and I'll put a note here with an asterisk.
Yeah, here,
right, wherever. Yeah. Is like this film, I believe, was shot on the Aries 65.
I think it was shot on the LT and the Mini. But
oh, really? Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Oh, okay.
But
We'll take a look.
No, I don't know.
Hey, and here is our project
LF,
notes.
The
LF.
The LF.
Yeah. Either way, so I felt like the focal length was pretty close. The biggest issue that I had was. So basically,
I like the wall. You include the wall a little
right?
bit,
I noticed that there was kick here in the wall, so I was like, okay, I need to have that be represented. So basically, I have the 2 tubes pointing towards me, but clocked enough that they're falling off on here as well. So they're like 45-degree angle off of the back of my shoulder, and I have that 2 foot by 2 foot flex panel aperture RGB light just in front of me with a lantern, right? Cool. So that's what's keying my face. Her image is so yellow, and that the front of her face, even though you can't really see it because it's so subtle, they did it in the grade. It's like this bluish cast, right? So I made the mistake of being like, oh, I should put the flex panel to blue.
Okay, and did it wash everything else out?
It made the I don't know if it was. It didn't wash everything out. I just don't know if it was my ineptitude as a colorist, which it could be, which it probably is, or
to change all your colors.
Oh man, dude! It just literally, it would just create this line that was just like unblue. It was so blue I couldn't unblue it.
1 or 2%,
Yes, it was so blue. I was like, okay, wow, so interesting. And then it was just causing trouble with the magenta. And I couldn't get it as warm as this. I still can't get it as warm. Like, I'm just sort of like. It seems like the 10-bit color science of the Sony FX6 is good, limited? But it's not. It's not 16-bit raw.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
Whatever,
what were you? I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
What was I gonna ask?
800 ISO.
No.
F4. 125 millimeter lens.
Oh man, what was it? It was right on the tip of my tongue.
Sorry, the Amaran tubes were I put to about 60%.
What was your white balance?
My white balance was 4,300 Kelvin, so I put the tubes at 3,000 Kelvin, and so I each time I shifted the blue a little bit until I finally got to the point of where I'm just shooting this with white light, and I put it up to 7,500 Kelvin white. I went away from.
You could have the camera could have been could have shifted the color temperature in the camera a lot cooler, right?
Yeah.
And the lights would have rendered warmer.
Yes.
If you're really hunting for a little bit warmer, the darkness is darkness. So it's kind of, you're looking for that. That's how you could have gotten it in real time, right?
Yeah.
Without having, different gels.
Yeah, or I could, like, the tubes go down to 2700. I could have gone down to 2700.
Did they have, like, the color saturation intensity, the CSI? Like,
I
mean, you could have changed your color temperature there too, right?
Yeah,
like you could have changed the color temperature in the but you were just doing like a tungsten like balance sort of settings, right? Like more traditional. Yeah, sure. I mean, so there's a couple ways where you could have where you could have like made them warmer.
Yes,
if that was a thing. Right now, I know for a fact I watched some of this last night. I didn't finish it all because it's a long film.
Yeah.
And in the elevator, in the wider shot, when the doors open up, there's two lights that are like practical lights that are like on the wall.
Yeah, they're built in.
Yeah, built in. Yeah. They're warm too.
Yeah. So that's obviously what this is. This is all production design, and they just put like something in front of her face to lift up her front level.
As the camera backs out of the elevator, and she comes out of the elevator into the club. Like she's walking to the club right here.
Right.
So
the thing, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it because it's fully, full sunshiny
there's a little
day.
bit of a.
She's got a little kiss on the tip of her nose.
Yeah.
I was trying to get that too, and I did actually get it. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah,
I did get a little kiss.
Yeah, you got it.
It's funny because I've repeatedly stated about this project that this isn't about it being a direct replication of the shot.
Right.
But I really did want to understand the construction of this, right?
Well, I mean, she's got like those are lights. Those like that's built into.
So that is okay.
Well, from what I am like when I was watching it, she's in an elevator.
Yeah.
There's like this circle, the curved light behind her. That's like either like it's a production designed situation.
Like it's like an LED strip behind.
So it's either a strip or it's like it's probably a strip because it's curved, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably an LED versus a tube, just because it's curved. And then there's like some vertical ones, and then there's these like two like sconces that are like shoulder level, that are like square boxes, know. And it's all sure. And I imagine there's some stuff above them, right?
Yeah.
As they're in the elevator. So, that stuff's probably pretty soft, just because it's going through like some opaque, like. That seems to be the really, the T-stop, which, helps to make it feel a little bit softer on her shoulders, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the light, like any differences here, perhaps a little bit softer light in your case.
Right.
These are raw tubes, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
You didn't put any diffusion on them.
No.
You could have done something like that. Maybe just see what, like maybe, do a shot with no diffusion, do a shot with whatever diffusion of your choice and see what
like
you like.
Hampstead Frost.
Just see what it does. I mean, maybe it's a 250 or something. I mean, who knows what it is? Like whatever you have on hand, whatever you like to use. I would probably do something heavier than Hampshire Frost personally.
Yeah, because
basically nothing. Super
yeah.
light. I'd probably do like my first instinct would probably be like a 250. Like double.
Yeah. Okay. Is that because it's just the things the tubes wrapping around the side of my head are just harder than the way that it's falling on her neck, for example?
Well,
you can see on my neck.
I feel like that. There's definitely stuff behind her, like like in that orientation behind her, like at a 3/4 backlight sort of vibe, right? And that stuff's in the wall, and when in the film, it doesn't seem like you can see the source, so it feels like it's pretty like it's been diffused.
Yeah.
That's all. Like it's probably a piece of plastic that they put in front of it, so it's like and who knows if the lights are facing the plastic or if they're bouncing off of something in there,
right.
Who knows? But they're probably, they're definitely creating a lot of practical light, and there could be something above the camera that's giving you that, that little bit of that sort of nose light that we're seeing reflecting on her, like just right on the camera, perhaps, that moves with them as because I feel like when they enter the club from the elevator, it's like it's dark and like blue, like more colorful light, like the light's like pretty blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that, I don't think that's really like neither here nor there, but because in the elevator it's definitely like that warm space.
Yeah. Yeah, the grade also feels like the thing that I really feel like the color is the thing that let me down, that fell short on this one.
Pretty close, I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah, it just feels like these are warmer. Like, I agree with you that it's just... And I'm also getting this, like, sort of magenta thing that's going on. So I don't know if I'm just, like, learning the if I'm learning the limitations of the lights, or also just the FX6 sensor and like
Did you shoot a color chart or anything?
No.
You might want to do that.
I should
shoot a color chart, like, and then go from there.
Okay, talk to me about that.
Well, a color chart just like creates like a neutral, like, well, not neutral necessarily, depending on what kind of light is on it, right? You're trying to, we're trying to create a white and a skin tone that all look natural to us, right?
Yes.
And that's like different on every camera,
yeah,
right? So we'll shoot a color chart so that when you get into post, you can immediately like kind of just time the image immediately. I'm sure you've seen that drop down where it's like, color chart, boom. And then it kind of just gives you a neutral place to start. It's like, that means that now whomever is in post is looking at the image that like I'm looking at. Like we're sharing there's like we're communicating on the same level now.
Yeah.
And you can kind of skew things in one way or another. Like in fact, I think the thing I shot for you, like I shot my color chart with like a different color temperature than I actually shot the commercial with, and I kind of tricked it a little bit, not tricked it, but just like shifted it a little bit in a warmer zone just to begin with, because it was like, we want it to feel like, morning.
Right.
So I shifted it in that way just to kind of like, create that.
Right.
So that when we were
in camera.
Yeah, in camera. So that when, you're looking at it in camera, like, it also, it didn't necessarily get like, I'm sure they adjusted it, at a certain level. I'm sure you sat through it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you saw like, you may or may not have seen in the color what the color chart looked like.
Yeah, we just saw the cut, you know what I mean?
So,
they were like just coloring the cut, so whenever we were looking at it, it was just more of like, do you like A or do you like B? It's like, oh yeah, I like B. I like O. I like when they, like, I think in their color session, it was like pretty straightforward. You had all of the information that they needed. Everything was already there, right?
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, okay, great. They just put some like soft vignettes to focus our eyes into the subject,
maybe some harder cuts.
Stuff. Yeah, exactly, for the slash of light that was coming in through the window.
Did you isolate any of like the subject or any of that stuff like
not that I saw that they were doing. If it was something, it would have been under the hood before we even showed up.
But I mean, there's lots of different ways to go about doing it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the color chart's just kind of like a place to jump off from. Like it's kind of it's like this is where what we were looking at and like how we were interpreting things in real time. And
so let's say, for example, I'm doing the color chart here. Do I just hold the color chart up in this frame? Even though there's like blue casting light casting on it, or is it like you
could like favor the light that you're trying to like you can like not do it directly to the you can kind of shift it a little bit to pick up the light over here. You can you try to get it in the light that your sort of your biggest source of light is, or whatever your sort of ambient like your key, so to speak, right? And the key is the stuff that's coming from behind her in this case. So I would just illuminate it with that light, shoot the color chart.
And all color charts are the same?
Yeah, I mean the size and the scale of them is different, but I believe that all of the the colors are laid out like in the same skew, like the same sort of like orientation, and like there's like a black, a pluge, like a black to gray to.
Yeah, I've seen that one, so that you expose for middle gray, right?
So there's a handful of things. There's like you've got there's color points on it. At least a little one I have. In fact, maybe I should go get it and I'll show you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
that sounds cool. Okay, so do you shoot a color chart every time you change lens?
No.
You just do it once at the beginning of the production?
I'll usually shoot if I'm going to shoot an interview, I'll shoot my color chart for my A and my B camera. Okay. And it also helps to match the cameras up too. Like that's kind of it's to have consistency. Yeah. Because all the cameras are a little they're all close and stuff, but like they're all gonna maybe be a little different. Just so this kind of helps create like a standard.
Right.
And the color chart is like I said, there's a handful of colors, and see how I'm.
Yeah, you're tilting it towards our key light, which is the sun bouncing off of the sky.
Yes. So there's a series of like. All these colors, I believe, will be like in a similar orientation on most color charts, whether or not it's this way, or this way. However you hold it.
Yeah, it's like there's that menu in DaVinci Resolve.
And you can move it around. Yeah. There's different shades of blue and warm and cooler tones here. There's like it's an 8-stop difference from black to white. Here, most cameras have more than an 8-stop latitude at this point, but It's just like, you'd shoot it and you'd hold it there for 10 seconds and, let your A camera and then you'd let the B camera, and then for your, you get into post, you pull that thing up, and you can make them kind of at least the same, and then you have a place to jump off from. So,
great. Yeah. No, that's all great. Great. Okay, great. We're just going to take a quick little break to say, brought to you guys by Color Checker. Be sure to check out Color Checker. We'll have a proprietary link in the bottom. Be sure to say use promo totally not sponsored to get 0% off of your checkout purchase price. But I'm making sure that we say all of these things because one day we will be sponsored by Color Checker, and one day we will be sponsored by Shot Deck Larry Sure. Watch our stuff. Okay, great. That's fantastic. I got to get a Color Checker because I don't have one.
You should get one.
That sounds great.
It's like a grayscale back in the day. Like you'd shoot a grayscale, and
well, that's another thing for a totally different video that I want to get into is like really understanding. One of the things that I was having trouble with this as well is like I really got to figure out how to expose this camera. I got to figure out how to protect the shadows.
Which one? The 6?
The FX6, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we were talking about the other day when you were in Cine EI.
And fool around with it.
Yeah, that's right. I just need to shoot. And what I want to do is just shoot an actual exposure test.
Yeah.
Like a real one, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, well, there's ways to go about it. Yeah, we'll have
great.
That's another conversation.
That's a whole other video. Yeah, great. Okay, to continue with the Batman, is there anything else that you would like to talk about this?
I mean, once again, I think you're kind of like the light to me just feels a little bit softer, and also the lens, the fact that she's, once again, like, her face is so much sharper than her neck, and that's really the only sort of difference. Everything else would fall off a little bit more, and it would probably feel a little bit closer. But I mean, I feel like you're on the right. You're in the right. On the right track, like.
Yeah, and anamorphic too, right? It's going to make all that stuff fall off probably a little bit
change
more.
That, especially on the edges.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't like. Maybe the lights are maybe too forward.
Yeah.
On your nose, like maybe they should be, a few inches back. I don't know. Like that's, maybe you're a few inches forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's interesting because I was doing this thing when I was shooting it where I was like trying to look at the monitor and I was doing this because I was really trying to get those nose catches because there were plenty of times where I was just too far forward and my nose wasn't getting anything. And I was like, oh man, she really has those. So I was like, I really want to see where that sweet spot is. And yeah, you're right. Because it feels like the tubes might need to be further in this way, right, and clocked out that way, so that I get it's like more narrow.
The shot, because you can see how like you've got more of the front of your face,
my cheeks and stuff,
versus the light being further behind.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because like the lights are on her physically next to her in the space, right?
Yeah.
Like so you're not going to be, but it's. I got to be honest with you. That's one of those things that when I'm shooting something, I'm very like, and if there's a side, if I want that side light, I typically am trying not to get the side of the nose. I don't want that to hit the nose usually. Personally,
right when you're doing a side light or a back
or like a 3/4 edge light, I'd rather it not hit the nose personally. Like if I'm trying to do a backlight or a 3/4 backlight and I see it hitting the nose, I know that it's too far forward and I have to shift it back. It's just. Personally, I don't want to see that on like the shadow side at all. Like if my key light's over here, if I'm getting key lit from here and like this is dark, I don't want to see any of my I don't want to see it creeping around on my nose.
Yeah, personally. it's I've heard that as a rule of thumb, right? Which is that it's not an indictment of Greg Fraser's
No,
right?
not at all. I'm just saying like another note, like if we're going to take this as a learning experience, right? Which is what it is.
Yeah.
And with respect to your lighting, like you could even argue that might be a more just close your eyes a little bit, like squint your eyes and look at your image. Imagine if there was nothing on your nose and that wasn't lit. It'd probably be a little bit more interesting shot.
Yeah, it would be.
Not Batman. Forget Batman.
Just as a shot in of
I
itself,
would be more turned on by that being darker. Personally.
Totally.
So
I definitely have those images. I have versions where my eye.
No. But you know what I mean, like. This is you're recreating something that was like, that's the way it was in that space, and that's, that's just the way it is.
But I'm actually glad that you pointed that out, because that's like a distinction that I'm hoping that this is serving a purpose as for not only me, but for other people that are hopefully watch it in the future, which is the idea is like, that is a great rule of thumb to know. Of course, everything is to taste when you're in this field, right, working as a cinematographer, but you're not the first person that I've ever heard is like, if you are trying to do a backlight or a back 3/4 light, you ideally it's not hitting their nose.
Yeah, I mean, it's a backlight. It's not a side light.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Shouldn't be hitting their
and
nose,
the reason is probably because, it's sort of distracting, right? It brings your attention to their nose, which isn't necessarily the thing that you want them to be looking at.
Yeah, and you're definitely not seeing your eyes in that space. Like, it feels more mysterious if you don't see the nose, I think,
Yeah.
Personally,
And obviously, it happened in this, like, this is just a singular screen grab off of shot deck as well for the Batman, right? Like, her A mark could have been a step.
I don't know. I feel like maybe where the lights were in that space, like there's just lights all around that elevator.
Yeah.
And then I just feel like that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's not about like her staying in that space singing a song. It's not like a music video and we're shooting like her close up.
Right.
That's not what's happening here. Like she's moving from the space and I don't remember exactly. I know she moves into the camera leads her into like
the nightclub, right? Yeah. This is like our first introduction to her, I think, right? Or close to it.
No, this is where she's got the Batman like contacts in and she's seeing stuff.
Oh, okay, copy.
Yeah. Yeah, Batman and her have already like
they've already made a thing.
Yeah.
A mutually exclusive or a mutually beneficial relationship. Yeah.
But yeah, like let's say this was a music video and she wasn't moving forward out of that light, like maybe you would probably push those lights a bit further behind her. I don't know. So that you could get
takes a step 6 inches forward. Yeah.
So that you like could get that sort of like darkness on the face. I mean, I don't know. It's like it's all personal preference. I personally would prefer to, if like I said, if it was like someone's close up for an interview for a for like it's not Batman, like that we're talking about here.
Yeah. This is a hypothetical situation like, where you're shooting
something similar in this sort of vibe of like I would probably move him back.
Yeah.
So
great. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about as far as the Batman is concerned?
No, I feel like that's pretty good.
I'm just going to go to, just to keep the trend going, if that's okay, guys, I'm going to go to Shot Deck really quickly. I'm going to go to my inspiration shots, and we're going to have Turner pick one for me for this coming week.
All right, let's see.
And then we'll do a really brief discussion about it, but also I don't want to have too many secrets exposed.
Right.
So you go ahead and choose one of these images. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Hereditary is the answer?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I didn't even know what film it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Like, it's like a mirror back. She's like doing makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
And you might have some of that stuff around. Like,
yeah.
hard light coming through the door, right?
Yeah.
Or the window.
Yeah.
Like lighting those shears up. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, for a horror film, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie. Is it good?
Oh my God!
Should I watch it tonight?
Oh my God! It's incredible. Please watch it, dude.
Hereditary, 2018.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude,
I never saw it.
Yeah.
Who directed it? It's
Ari Aster.
Okay, yeah, right. Who shot it?
That's just like sort of.
Man, I can't.
This is like
so that writing is so little, dude. How can you read that?
Pajwe Porzelski.
It's too small for you to read.
Pajwe Porzelski. It is tiny.
Okay,
great. All right, great.
I'm sure there's a few others in there that I like that.
This is great. That's what I was hoping for. It's just like instant, like just a quick fire one. This is gonna be interesting. Part of the reasons why I keep coming back to the fact that these are inspirations versus literal recreations is like I don't have a window like that in my house. So we're gonna find something that's gonna be like that. I do have a bedroom window that's like a larger bay window that I could probably cut off and make sort of smaller. So
do you have a C-stand and like you could put like just a C-stand arm and like light behind it, and just make it feel like because like that's kind of like a sheer there coming through a window, right?
Oh yeah. I've got some ideas. Let me try some stuff. We'll see what you think.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Okay, guys. Cool. Thanks for watching. Hopefully, you guys learned something. I learned something about the color picker. That's for sure. And kicker lights and back 3/4 lights. Keep them off those nostrils.
Personal preference.
Yeah, everything's about personal preference. Okay, cool. Thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.